It's nice to see. We know each other for 30 years.
Yes.
I have a question for you because there are three dimensions for the conflicts. Nuclear weapon is a technological and military dimension, but there is an economic dimension. I think from my history, I can see Israel wants a speedy war, not protracted war, because economic cost is very high for Israel. Also, I see Trump has some similarity with Gorbachev and Yeltsin because they have a similar consideration that the cost of the war is too heavy. So my question for you is, how long the Israel and the Iran conflict could last, which limits the capacity of Israel or even United States to support the protracted war?
Thank you very much. The war, such as it was, lasted 12 days. And from what we can gather, it was Israel that was pushing to end the war. And the main reason is Iran has missiles that can penetrate the Israel air defense system. And Israel was very hard hit in three regions: in the south in Beersheba, in the coast in Tel Aviv, and in the north in Haifa. And a lot of damage was done. We don't know exactly because military censors have, to some extent, limited our precise knowledge. But my view is there was a lot of damage and that Iran could inflict a lot more damage. What's true is that the bombing and the attacks by Israel also inflicted damage in Iran, so it wasn't just one way. But I don't believe that Russia and China and others would let Iran fall to an outright defeat. So I think that Israel cannot afford a long war. It can't win. It has wanted the United States to fight a long war, but the U.S. can't fight a long war and doesn't want to. And in the United States public, there's no interest in this at all. So there were no voices of public opinion saying, we need to fight Iran. None. This was a totally elite, lobby-driven, political elite war. And most of Trump's own base was against this. Tucker Carlson was against this war. And Tucker Carlson has an audience of millions of people, and they listen. And the MAGA crowd is actually not militaristic. It doesn't like immigrants. There are many things that it likes or doesn't like, but it does not want a war. So I think you're right that the American view is very conflicted. Now, the U.S. or Trump maybe thought or was told, we can have a decisive effect in the short bombing by destroying Iran's nuclear capacity. I don't really know if he was told that. There is still debate about what happened with the U.S. bombing. My own view is nothing happened with the U.S. bombing. That's my own personal view. By that, I mean they may have destroyed one facility or damaged a facility, but Iran is a big country and they have centrifuges in many places. And my guess is that they got their nuclear material out of Fordo before the bombing because they had several days' notice and there was satellite observations of trucks moving in and out of the facility. So I don't believe that Iran lost its processed uranium, which is processed up to 60% and could easily be processed to nuclear arms level if they wanted to, which I don't think they do. but could be. So I don't think there was any strategic victory by the United States. I don't think there was any tactical advantage by the United States. I don't think Israel won anything. I think it was, if anything, a loss by Israel and the US. And Israel, and by that I mean Netanyahu, is probably pushing for some kind of revival of a longer war, but the United States is not interested. And Trump probably will resist that. Remember, by the way, in the US, the budget situation is bad, the social situation is bad, the public is not interested in any of this. So this is a lobbying-driven activity, and you're right in your observation that it is not feasible to maintain for a long period. It's similar to the Ukraine war in the same way. There is no interest of the American people in this war or in Ukraine, but for that matter. This is no cause for the American people. This is a deep state cause, and it's not explained to the American people at all. Our mass media support the government, but the public is against all of this. And the public doesn't matter in American decision-making very much, but it's against it.
I am a research from Shanghai Academy of Social Science. So I have a question which I would like to ask you. So as we know that Bibi's political career is in his final stage, and most Israeli people do not want to fight forever. But as we all know, the two-state solution also cannot seem to be a very good or maybe useful solution to these traits. For example, the previous solution about the solution is about India and Pakistan. And we all know that India and Pakistan do not seem to be very well, or we would like to say they have to fight with each other very times. And the second, most Israeli people, they want peace, but doesn't mean they want to back to the border of 1967. And the third, the UN, and we would like to say it cannot be very useful or to make the peace from these two countries. So, Professor, do you think we have any more realistic solution to solve these problems?
I'll tell you on the Israel-Palestine issue what I'm proposing.
Yeah, I read some articles.
Yes, but whether it is achievable or not is another matter. So first of all, I don't believe that the Israeli government or the Israeli political process will ever accept a state of Palestine. So I'm not looking for negotiation between Israel and Palestine. We saw that play out many times, and for one way or another, it was always blocked. Either the Israelis just refused to implement what they had agreed. For instance, the Oslo process was basically killed because Israel would not continue to do what was supposed to be done under the agreement. Or the leader, in the case of Yitzhak Rabin, was murdered by an extremist who opposed the two-state solution. And Netanyahu has a 30-year career as prime minister. 29 years ago, he came to power as prime minister, completely dedicated to one idea: no state of Palestine. And his approach is overthrow any government in the region that threatens that control by Israel over Palestine. So in this sense, I don't believe negotiations can work. But I do want to use the UN to force the outcome. How to do that? Not simple. But my proposal is that we have a vote which admits Palestine to the UN as a member state, the 194th member state, on the borders of the 4th of June, 1967, which is what international law declares to be Israel's borders. So the borders before the Six-Day War. Such an invitation to the UN is not only feasible, it has been tried twice, and the US blocked it 2 times. In 2011, Palestine applied for membership. It was supported by 14 of the 15 members of the Security Council, and the United States told the Palestinians, don't push the case, take observer status, and then in a few years we'll grant you membership. This was a lie. So they accepted observer status, no membership. Then this came up for a vote in 2024 again, because the Palestinians said, now we really want it. And this time the vote was 12 in favor, 2 abstentions, and 1 veto by the United States. So my interpretation simply is that the United States is the barrier, not Israel. Because if the United States doesn't veto this, Palestine becomes a member state, and Israel has nothing to say about that. Of course, the next day, Israel remains an occupying force, illegally, with a Palestinian state at a certain border. So it's not the end of the story, but it would signal to the Israelis and to the world and to the Palestinians, there can be no reversal but a state of Palestine. Never in UN history has a state been eliminated. Of course, China replaced the seat in 1971, but other than that, no state has ever been a member that has been thrown out. So to my mind, if Palestine is admitted, it becomes a reality. Then there are the problems of the Israeli settlers in the West Bank, which is probably 600,000, and another 200,000 in East Jerusalem, and the mess in Gaza. But my idea is that practically speaking, the whole world, other than Israel and the United States, agree that there should be a normal Palestinian state and Israel should live within its borders, which, by the way, is 78% of the original British mandate of Palestine. So they get a very good deal out of this, thank you, Israel. And I think that establishing the state of Palestine, agreeing with the Arab countries and Iran that there can be normalization with Israel when Israel accepts this, will step by step lead to an outcome of peace. Not immediately solving everything. Many of these settlers are very extreme, they're armed, they are not going to peacefully settle this issue. So it's many years. I would say the settlers will remain in Palestine even after Palestine exists, and that will go on for some time. So this crisis won't end quickly. But I would like to signal to the Israeli people and the Israeli government, you will not rule over the Palestinian people in the long term. They will have their own state. They will live side by side with you. Get on with reality. So I think that that step actually could make a very important contribution. All that requires is a change of 1 vote, which is the United States. And my argument to Washington and to everybody in public debate is that this is the only way actually to make Israel secure. It's the only way to make peace in the region. And it's in the interest of the United States because 185 countries agree with this right now. And so the U.S. has isolated itself on behalf of Israel to America's detriment. So the current policy is no favor to the United States. It's not even any favor to Israel, in my view. And almost all the world opposes it. So the only point I'm making is I would not leave this to Israel to decide. I would impose this on Israel by a vote of the UN Security Council, which is under international law a feasible action to take, a very direct action to take. When it comes to India and Pakistan, this is another terrible, unending crisis. It all goes back to, well, it all goes back, of course, to 1947, and it goes back to a failure of India to implement agreements over a vote in Kashmir that goes back already for 75 years. So this is a long-standing issue. It's also, we didn't talk about that conflict, it's two nuclear powers, very dangerous as well. And that, I won't say more about how difficult that is, but again, it's really important to resolve it. Let me say one word about the India-China conflict, because that also is quite relevant. The India-China conflict goes back to 1907, as I understand it, when a British military mid-level official drew a line on the map in the Himalayas of what the border is, the McMahon Line. He didn't visit the location. It was not surveyed. It was not based on anything except his line on a map. And it meant nothing at the time because the Qing dynasty was falling and India was in British imperial control anyway. But then came 1947, then came 1949, and the new government in Beijing said we need to demarcate the Himalayas. And Nehru's unfortunate response was to accept the British line. Here was a newly independent country, non-aligned movement, a real chance for a resolution, but Nehru just accepted McMahon Line. This leads me to my theorem that all problems in the world go back to the British. So I find this true almost everywhere in the world. The British messed up. And they even messed up in the Himalayas where they weren't even present. They messed up. But I would like India and China to solve this thing because I think that if India and China could get back in a good direction, that would really tell the Western world, look, that world's over. We're really in a multipolar world, no joke. The two of us alone are 38% of the world population. So, and you cannot play India against China because America's dream is to play India against China. This is very naive because India is not going to be used by the United States in this way, but it's the American dream to use India as a push against China. And I would like India to say clearly to the US, don't play that game. We don't want to play that game. We want a multipolar world. I would like India and China to reach an agreement. But I have one idea, which is maybe not so popular in either place. But I say to Chinese friends, make a list of all the things you want from India. And then I say to China, on the other side, support India as the 6th permanent member of the UN Security Council to make India a great power settle all these other smaller disputes, and then we'll have a much more representative world, and the Security Council will be much more representative, and China, India, Russia will be able to say to the West, so-called, we're here, it's peaceful, it's fine, but you don't run the show anymore. So it's a truly multilateral world.